doing a news show, and that is what happened in the news. We doing a news show, and that is what happened in the news.
Everything's computer. I love Tesla.
Saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me, saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping. So, and if you own one, we're not blaming you. You can take dental floss and pull the Tesla thing off, you know, and take out, just telling you. Saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really come as quite a shock to me that there's this level of really hatred and violence from the left. I always thought the left, or Democrats, were supposed to be the party of empathy, the party of caring, and yet they're burning down cars, they're firebombing dealerships, they're firing bullets into dealerships, they're just smashing up Teslas. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things. So I think we just have a deranged. There's some kind of mental illness thing going on here, because this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and I think there are larger forces at work as well. I mean, I don't know who's funding it and who's coordinating it, because this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this. Yeah.
All right, nerds, literal fascist Nazi billionaires are taking over this country and firing federal employees en masse and trying to annex Canada and arresting dissent, blah, blah, blah. And this bill gives billionaire Nazis more power and not less power. Nazis are taking over and we're actually leaning into it. This is somehow dumber than what Cuck Schumer did. And no matter what you say, it really is because Elon was here a while ago. Because you're like, Daddy Musk, tell me what you want. I'll pass your bills. I'll suck your toes. I'll carry your babies. I'll sig hail, but not really. Okay, look, all of you who voted for or will vote for this garbage, you are a traitor not only to the state and nation, but humanity itself. Objectively speaking, the world would be better off had you never been born. But it's not too late. You can still Bud Dwyer yourselves. At least I would enjoy watching that. So, yeah, let's go with that one. Motion to adjourn. Can I get a second? All right.
We hello humans. It is the 20th of March 2025. I'm Dan from the internet. This is your Power Report. We are living in very predictable times, as me and my co-host Bam will say here. In just a moment. Let's see if he's looking alive here in any moment now. Here? Yeah, totally. What's up?
What up, y'all? March 20th.
First day of spring. Isn't that great?
It?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's like the spring solstice, equinox, one of those things. I don't know. I don't go to that gym. I'm a Planet Fitness guy.
Call-in show today, people. Hopefully you guys join us.
Yeah, I'm going to put the links in the description on YouTube right now. You can join in via StreamYard. We will start taking calls proper
right now.
No, a little bit after the top of the next hour. So 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern.
Damn.
That's what I said. That's what I said. Let's see. There you go. The thing I want to talk about Chuck Schumer. I want to make sure I talk about Chuck Schumer because Sachi and I prepared a good little ditty for y'all about Chuck Schumer. Because we're not just going to talk about, oh wow, look at this happen, let's gawk at it. We're going to talk about why it happened. But first, mercifully, because we are on this tight schedule, bam. Internationally, things have been popping off a little bit. The Houthis are showing up. What are we doing here?
Well, they got bombed by the Trump administration. He is not as peaceful.
No, that was Biden.
He's not as peaceful as everyone thought. Yeah, I guess I don't know what the administration like said was the reason why they did it, but in my estimation, it was a response to Iran not wanting to negotiate about not wanting to negotiate a new nuclear deal. The Trump administration sent a letter to Iran saying basically like let's negotiate a new nuclear deal, even though they ripped up the nuclear deal that we already had in Trump's first administration. And the Ayatollah said, no, we're good. And I think that the bombing of the, not exactly the Houthis, really, a lot of civilians died. I think that was a response to Iran saying no to those, like, to that letter, basically. But yeah, I think Israel, I'm just sorry, the Houthis did fire a ballistic missile towards the Ben Gurion airport, but it was intercepted. So yeah, that's where we are.
That's a pretty good summation. As if I've been paying attention. No, I've been keeping updates to it like on a day-to-day basis. And Donald Trump, I think what's slightly more interesting about this is that Donald Trump is doing his like bluster bravado thing for everyone from Canada to China. Right? From Mexico to Mozambique. And every country is handling this differently. Now, every country is at a different position to be able to handle Trump. But, Yemen and the Houthis are definitely not in, a Canadian position or a German position to deal with Trump. But, we've seen the hubris of the Western Empire in rare form, frankly, specifically highlighted with the happenings on and after October 7th, but definitely just throughout the 21st century, really, and after just like the overall end of the Cold War and the fall of the Berlin Wall, and frankly through a lot of that as well. Like the America for a long time was really hooked on our like World War II stories about how we saved the world and and now our education system is so bad that we don't even teach the propaganda anymore. So we haven't really, settled into a sense as a country of what it means to be in a potentially multipolar world. Because I don't think Trump's bravado is going to maintain America as a unipolar world. The writing's on the wall. And to be fair to Donald Trump, the writing has been on the wall for that since before even his first term.
Yeah, for sure.
That is all to say, like, sorry, last thing, but that is all to say that, like, in a protracted conflict between Yemen and the United States, I don't think Yemen's got all of that, all right? But I do think there is a lot of animosity around the United States and around Israel, especially, and around what's going on there. Really fast. Trump said that those were his seas, those were our seas. or the Trump administration said those are RCs, referring to the Red Sea. And I'm like, you sure about that, buddy?
He's going to name it, going to change the name to the American Sea, the red, white, and blue sea.
The same week, his administration used the justification that because deportation planes were over the Gulf of Mexico, I'm sorry, Gulf of America, that counted as international waters, actually. So therefore, the ruling wasn't allowed. It's like, wait, I thought you just called the Gulf of America. Now it's international waters? Like, what are we doing here?
Right. But also that bombing that happened. I mean, the last numbers I saw was 54 people got killed in 2 different areas of Yemen. I want to say like southern and northern Yemen. It was the worst bombings in Yemen since when the Saudis were bombing Yemen some years back. But yeah, I mean, I've been saying it from the beginning, even, I mean, before the election, but, you know, my biggest fear, aside from this becoming a straight up like authoritarian Russia, but internationally, I mean, I feel like if Trump was able to like declare a war on Iran and like actually take it to that level, then it'd be easier for him to do a lot of the more authoritarian things he's been trying.
I thought you were going to say Caesar's been wanting.
Yeah, Caesar too. But yeah, I you know, all of this has to do with Iran. I even think that Israel basically reinvading Gaza has to do with Iran too. Also, Netanyahu's position within the Israeli political structure, but you know, it was kind of out of the blue. Trump sending that letter to Iran, and like, why would Iran want to negotiate with him after he already, you know, ripped up the last nuclear deal? It's the same kind of sentiment as him talking about this deal with Canada and Mexico that's so bad, but it's like, well, you did it though. So
That's so funny. It's like, these are terrible deals. These are horrible deals. It's like, look, buddy, you was popping off all that good shit in your first term because you were on a clean slate. All right. NAFTA became, the US Mexico Canada agreement, not the cum agreement, because that makes sense too, but the US Mexico Canada agreement, not Canada, because Canada's on top if we're going from top to bottom, which is how you're generally supposed to wipe. But you got it's because of Trump's US Mexico Canada agreement. That is why I got a car from an American company with Canadian parts assembled in Mexico. Right? Like, not to mention all the other, you know, batteries and technological pieces that come from Southeast Asia, and, you know, mining that come from rare earth minerals in the continent of Africa, and, you know, potentially in Ukraine, and, you know, potentially in South America as well. So all of this stuff is connected. Like, the whole international economy thing is connected. Donald Trump and the people who support him don't really know enough about the economy, or also don't care enough, because there are some people around him who definitely know enough, but they don't care, and they're like, oh, they kind of have the same sort of like disregard for the status quo of economics that, frankly, I and a lot of Marxists have. It's just like, okay, these teachings got us this far, but economics is a constantly evolving field, and frankly, every century or so, the entire thing gets mostly rewritten. Similarly with medicine, you don't have a space here where Donald Trump is able to, like you're saying, going through all these different agreements and saying, oh, I don't like this one, I don't like this one, we're gonna get a better deal. And it's like, buddy, I know you're losing it. I know you got like the dementia or whatever they're hiding, but Mr. President, it was you who made the deals. It was you who made part of the deal. Yeah.
or got out of the deal. I mean, I remember him saying like the Iranian nuclear deal, like
Mm-hmm.
He was saying Obama gave them $10 billion or some weird stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know I don't really know how serious that was. Like, I don't know if he's just trying to like see what, government he can get to like come to the table with him to make it seem like he's just this big bad negotiator. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, there were threats in that letter also, and I don't know if he's going to make good on those threats. But I think the initial um, the initial making good on the threats to Iran was them bombing Yemen. The Houthis been around for a long time. Like, I mean, bombing Yemen from the air, like they got bombed a million times by Saudi Arabia. Like, they still are there and still the only people fighting for Gaza. So, like, it didn't work, and that's not going to work with America doing it either. Um, but yeah, we'll see. We got a few years to see if Iran can hold out.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath for that. That's for damn sure. I think otherwise internationally, we're on the cusp of potential ceasefire. In Ukraine, a temporary ceasefire. Again, this has been handled in a way that has been very, you know, Trump loves it, Putin loves it, Zelensky hates it, everybody else hates it. But it's been made in a way that seems to be, in secret. Ukraine has been let in certain ways, but Russia has been like, the US comes to Russia being like, okay, here are Ukraine's hands. Like, let me show you all the cards that I just negotiated out of them. And so Russia definitely gets the upper hand of the deal because also the United States is courting Russia in this, right? So they hold a substantial amount of the cards too. Yeah, there's a lot of unstoppable force, immovable objects things seem to be happening here where Ukraine seems a pretty hard line on not wanting to give up any territory, or at least as much territory as possible, considering they may not be able to get Crimea back, but they don't want to give up the things they lost since the war started, and definitely not the things that they have been able to like take back from Russia, slowly and slightly. This ceasefire could allow both sides to regroup. I think the obvious question is from what? Like, they're not like, able to reload their nukes, their missiles, or anything like that. So I think that it's it's something worth watching, something that's interesting. We shouldn't hang our hats on it just yet, of course, but I think any respite, of course, for civilians anywhere, especially what the Ukrainian people have been through, is good. But the long game here, especially as we've seen through the negotiations, doesn't seem to be anything where actors that are not capitalists, that are not international oligarchs, some might even say globalists in the way that right wingers use, except up to, talking about a religious context, right? But people who are like international owners of capital, they're going to benefit off of any of these deals, especially if there's rare earth minerals to be involved, especially if Russia is able to open up some of its capital flows around natural gas and grain and other of these essential foods that have been sanctioned and halted. These different pipelines that have been in service that Trump administration and an overall less climate friendly environment are more likely to be amenable towards. That's the ultimate takeaway I have from that, to make a micro point about it, is that a ceasefire may happen, but just like in the situation with Gaza and the West Bank, it's going to be temporary. It's probably not even going to be a ceasefire because the fire will not cease. And after the official terms, or possibly even before that, or best case scenario, a little while after the official terms, but not too long afterwards, I think we're going to see more attacks again and more violence again, because we're not seeing a president who is interested, or really any party who's interested in a long-term solution out of this.
Well, I mean, the ceasefire talks or negotiations have been really, although Ukraine agreed to them and Putin had some kind of like handed response to them. Since that's happened, Russia has been attacking more, and more like civilian areas. Is pretty terrible. Ever since basically ever since the Zelensky Oval Office debacle, Russia has been like stepping up its attacks. Well, ever since America did the pause on sending arms to Ukraine and sharing intelligence, Russia just like stepped it up like crazy. And like Putin said, like, I agree to the ceasefire, but, and then in the meantime, I'm just gonna like do more killing. I do feel like Zelensky and Ukraine would like a long-term solution to this war, because it's really not helping anybody at this point. Russia, like Putin, just wants to eventually have Ukraine be a client state, and I don't know if that's going to happen. Like it's really interesting to see what's happening in Europe right now, because like Trump's election and his like stance towards Russia has done something that we thought we might not see for a long time, and that's have Germany start like to rebuild its military, and like be willing to go into debt to like build up its military, and actually talk about having nuclear weapons, and I guess to some extent these European nations are afraid of what Putin's Russia might do if the United States just completely leaves Ukraine out to dry. But they're talking about being prepared to handle that, and I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that the best case scenario is just Putin says, "Oh, I was just joking," and withdraw all those forces. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, because along with Trump being senile, I still do think Putin is just like completely lost his mind. It's hard to understand I can understand what the end game is, but it's like, to what means, dude? Like, what extent are you willing to sacrifice the Russian people? And by people, I don't just mean like the actual soldiers dying, but like,
Whoa,
the wealth of the nation. Like, you are literally just like pouring all this money into this war for no reason. It's also really interesting seeing like the European, like seeing like the UK and France and Germany and all these other countries talk about not being able to trust America, or not being able to trust Trump in regards to Russia. But what they're really saying is what they don't want to say out loud is like, they just can't trust the American people. like they're saying, we can't trust you, American people, to not elect another president like this, or somebody even worse, actually. Like, you guys elected this person that is like completely upending everything for like no good reason. And we can't trust the American people to not elect somebody even worse than this. So now Germany is like, well, we got to get nuclear weapons now because the American people are so stupid.
I think that's an important like final point to put on that, is that Donald Trump's bravado is not working. It's that it's more of a fear of the American electorate and the system that is working. So anyways, like in some ways, like the founding fathers getting the last laugh in that sense, but not really. Donald Trump is easily manipulatable. Like most of these major, power countries, and even the ones that don't have a lot of power, but the ones that have, minerals and resources right now, like the new scramble for the global south, they can flatter Donald Trump here, name a base after him there, sign a deal that makes him look good over here, and problem solved. Kim Jong-un could do that before the Winter Olympics, frankly. And if it would make Donald Trump look good and he could say that he ended the Korean War, then Trump would do it in a heartbeat, right? That's not the thing that scares politicians across the world, because everyone knows that he's easily flattered. If you let him get his licks in and then, pretend like you're giving him what he wants, but make him think that what you want is what he wants, then you will always get the upper hand. But like you said, Bam, people are afraid of the American system. They're afraid, like, oh, y'all are gullible and will easily elect a bozo like this who is easy to convince and is also a, crazy person.
Yeah. I mean, you see like people in Turkey right now are like risking jail and their lives to some extent because Erdogan jailed one of his potential opponents. Um, and people in universities and on the street are rioting and protesting, and and they know they're going to get locked up, and even they're even arresting people that are posting stuff online about Erdogan arresting this guy, who was the mayor of Istanbul.
Yeah.
And not just like, it's not like the left or whatever. It's people that are just like the chat is like distracting me. It's not just like the left or whatever. It's people that are like, this is not right. Like, this is, you're going even further away from democracy, Mr. Erdogan. And yeah, and sadly in America, Trump has such a large support group, or I guess base, you could call it, that, he can kind of get away with whatever he wants for the most part. And, you got, 70 some odd million people that are just like, yeah, sure. Like, oh, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes. Is there there was some comments that have come in I want to get to. Pink Belt said earlier, am I the only one who wants to see Elon actually cry on TV? We've gotten close.
No. Because then they're gonna, that's just humanizing him. No. What we need to see Elon do is blank, then blank himself.
Yeah. There's a meme on TikTok that's like how we're gonna react the morning the news drops. And it's just like people dancing and celebrating.
That's hilarious. I love that.
And like they specifically only word it, that way. It's like how we're gonna react when the news drops, and everyone knows what we're talking about. Man, kind of wild. Left of the box. Hopefully you call in as well. Also want to mention I have the ticker going on at the bottom, but for folks watching live, this is a call-in show. Probably around 10 after the hour, we will take calls for the rest of the show. We'll end a little bit early because it's the Severance season finale, and me and Ravana got some business to take care of. But there is, we're using StreamYard to handle the calls. So if you know, I mean, if you know lefty political space, I know how that works. It's basically based in your web browser. If you're using an iPhone, Safari works best. If you're using Android, Chrome is fine. If you're using any other platform, Chrome is probably best. But yeah, we will take calls. We have some general questions. I want all like free discussion society. And I wanted to if you know, you know. And I wanted to add some prompts based on things like people have been talking about. So like example, how do you feel about Chuck Schumer is one prompt that people can kind of think about before they call in.
Real broad.
No, that's fine. Like I said, it's FDS questions. And you'll know how I feel about Chuck Schumer in a moment. When did you realize the Democrats were doomed? Not to make it a leading question, but if you disagree with any of the statements, then feel free. Bam. Who are you most concerned about right now? And that can be a very broad thing. It can be people in your life you think are affected by this government policy changing. It can be, you know, a prominent political figure who I think is sticking their neck out and you're worried about them, or maybe a not so prominent person, you know, any of that stuff. And are you planning on doing something offline if you're, of course, you know, able to make change? So how you feel about Schumer? When did you realize Democrats were doomed? Who are you most concerned about right now? Or what are you most concerned about right now? And what do you plan on doing to make change? These are general questions. You can call in and talk about anything, but if you want to call in but you don't know what to talk about, I gave you some things to ponder over and marinate on. Yeah, I think I want to read this from left of the box. Doug Ford says Canada should be flattered. Trump says we should be the 51st state. Sure. Also, if you don't see the StreamYard link, it should be in the description of the stream. I'm gonna double check. It looks like it was on my end.
Throw it in the chat too.
I will, but people can't like click on it that easily from the chat because otherwise YouTube would be spam central.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's not gonna link you there directly.
Oh, really? Okay.
Sometimes on phones you can take a screenshot of something and then from that screenshot you can copy the text and then paste it into a browser. So, you know, that'll work. If not, if there aren't calls, and also I'm open to getting an actual phone line in here too, but I know we have some international viewers, so StreamYard works better. But if there aren't any calls, like Bam says, I'm going to talk for an hour straight. And I'm just kidding. But because I did put myself on the clock, actually, any comments you want to read really quickly while I'm setting up for the Schumer rant?
Yes. Okay, I was gonna read that. Let me find something here. You know, we got left of the box of the building. B Cat. Do some shout outs. We got Soul Life. We got Death of Philippe Auguste. We got Bad Lefty, of course, is in the building. Uncle Slayer's in the building. Oh, I didn't know I was on here by myself. We got Aaron in the building. You know, we got Dan Cedar in the building. We got Sam Cedar in the building. Did I say B-Cat already? I think I did. We got B-Cat, Bad Lefty in Ireland. Okay. Yeah. You know, should I talk more about Turkey? I'll just talk about Turkey until Dan's back. Erdogan is really doing a lot. You know, he already wasn't big on democracy, but this fool really, you know, I really hate when leaders arrest their opposition. It's like when like Nicolas Maduro, I'm like, dog, you can't arrest your opposition every time, dude. Like at some point it's just like, dude, I'm sorry. Like it was cool for a while, but like every election you're gonna arrest your opposition or say they can't run. Like, you're a dictator now, dog. I'm sorry. That's why Lula said you don't believe them elections, dude. You can't arrest your opposition every time. Or be like, nope, they can't run. That's what Dan would do. Oh, wait, he's back.
That's why they call it bricks, not tricks. Yeah, no, Turkey ain't messing with that. So again, if you're not seeing the updated description of the StreamYard link, please maybe refresh or close YouTube or open it up again. It should be in the description. I just threaded it on Blue Sky and X to my original post for the stream. So make sure that's there. We'll talk. It should be fun. And I'll do more like promotion around these next time because that's just always helpful. But Bam, I'll start with you here. How much have you been keeping up with the Schumering?
I know what's going on. I was watching Tom Hartman talk about it. He was going off on him. Nancy Pelosi's going. You're cooked when Nancy Pelosi is like, you're being too moderate for me, even. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not like super locked in on it, but I know what's up.
Yeah, I was thinking of what to call this, and you know, given algorithmic changes and title changes and things like that, it might change. But today on the Weak Ass Dems report is the Chuck Schumer Death March.
One second. Bad Lefty said pin it in the chat, the streamer link.
I will do my best. In StreamYard, you can't pin things on like YouTube or whatever. So I have to look at my Pinkerbell or Bad Lefty. Whoever is a mod should be able to pin my messages as well. So yes, and I see left of the box in the background too. Yes, this is the cheap StreamYard, so we do not have a green room. Anyways, so I don't know, Chuck Schumer's Trail of Tears. I don't know where to start with this because I've been trying to, on the show especially, trying to like emphasize the why of why things are happening. And not necessarily, so what? Like, why is this important? Everything's important in its own way, and that kind of like gets drowned out in the Trump administration. But why it's happening, and not just the idea of, oh, only I can pin. Okay, I'll figure that out. But why this is happening versus just the concept of why is this important is really crucial. So I think one way to kind of jump into this is that you would never really, truly believe this headline if I hadn't shown you this headline with this date, if you hadn't been following politics recently. Nevertheless, Common Dreams reports, Jake Johnson, 14th of March, 2025, not even 2 full months into the Trump administration, calls for AOC to primary Schumer mount after, quote, gutless surrender. Quoting someone here, Jake Johnson says, Schumer should step down from Democratic leadership or be forced out and let someone who's actually willing to fight Trump take his place. There are unnamed House Democrats who are going on the record. House Democrats, with the exception of Jared Golden of Maine, unified against the Republican funding package, are, quote, so infuriated with Schumer's decision that some have begun encouraging Ocasio-Cortez to run against Schumer. Now, just like Bam was saying that if Pelosi is saying that you are giving weak sauce, I think Pelosi's quote is saying like, I don't leave. I'm gonna mix up my metaphors here, but he's like, I don't leave a negotiation empty-handed. Right?
Right.
And like that was her direct response to how Schumer acted. And you don't have to say that Schumer left the negotiation empty-handed. All Nancy Pelosi has to do is you see how I would have done it, and given how she is like was the Hakeem Jeffries, you know, kingmaker, queenmaker, kingmaker, in the Democratic Party for since, you know, we think of Nancy Pelosi as a moderate now, but she was one of the founders of the House Progressive Caucus in the 90s. So, none of these words mean anything. There is a so there's a lot going on here. Chuck Schumer is been really confronted over his approach. Basically, what happened over this week was, not to get into Schoolhouse Rock stuff, we'll do it really quickly, but there was a cloture vote, which Bam is already tired. But there was a cloture vote going on. And what that means is, to my understanding, the end of discussion over a bill, and it's how you procedurally move a bill from, okay, we're no longer debating it, to now we're going to start holding, you know, the procedural measures that come along with voting, right? And the key with cloture is that Democrats had a chance to at least, you know, show they were going to block it, because Republicans, to my understanding, did need some support or did need some help from Democrats to like get it over the hurdle, at least on the Senate side. At least on like the House, you know, like within Congress, right? House and Senate. It's kind of like, you know, inconsequential how much of this matters. And, you know, maybe I should read up on this. Frankly, I'm reading up on things during the week that make me more money. So I don't know the exact details of the political brinksmanship and the gamesmanship that's been going here. All I'm saying is that Schumer missed a major opportunity to, you know, lead his party along with Hakeem Jeffries to stand up and say, we're not going to, well, they're going to say, look, JD Vance is going and lobbying to Republican senators who are like, listen, we got to go through with this cloture vote. We got to go through with this continuing resolution. We got to keep the government funded, because if we keep the government funded, and these are basically JD Vance's words to paraphrase, funding the government means that Trump and Doge and Elon Musk get to do whatever they want. So the Democrats are faced with a very simple choice there. Not funding the government. You know, Elon Musk and Donald Trump still have a lot of power, but you're making it a little harder. You're making things a little more complicated. You're throwing the courts a bone. So for leadership to kind of react this way, and, you know, Chris Hayes has a history of being a, you know, provocative sort of like blogosphere person, and doesn't usually give hardball interviews. But he gave this really good interview on All In with Chris Hayes, where he got to speak exclusively with Chuck Schumer. And this is that access you get from being on MSNBC and getting to talk to these people. And so Chris Hayes is in the most polite way possible calling Chuck Schumer an idiot and a sellout to his face, saying that the same people that he's claiming to stand up for and defending are telling Schumer that he's dumb. Now, even before I play this, I want to note Schumer's face during the screen cap that I have paused here, because you can even tell how much of a true huckster, they're not sponsoring the brand, this man really is. Huckster the Chuckster. So yeah, let's get into here really quick. And then, of course, Bam, you have pause privileges whenever you want to, but we'll try to go through this relatively quickly. We do have some clips here.
People.
Yes. Hey, this is a democracy still. Let's hope it stays.
Well, here's what I'm saying is that all of those things you enumerated, which all sound like good politics to me, are the kinds of things that you'd be doing if Mitt Romney were president. That, like, there's this weird asymmetry right now, which is that they are acting in this totally new way, in which they are ambitiously trying to seize all power and create a presidential dictatorship in the United States of America. And the Democratic opposition is acting like, well, if we can get their approval rate down a few points, then what? What happens?
Well, what happens is, look, first we get it way down. He's going to have much less. This worked in 2017. You say it didn't. Now it's a different government.
It's different.
Sorry, I just gotta say that, like, he's acknowledging that, okay, it's a different government. Okay, it's not going to work the same way. Yes, we understand that they're, you know, acting very differently and they're acting outside the rule of law. But Democrats and Chris Hayes is like, it seems like the Democrats are saying, yeah, we know that's bad, but once they lose a few percentage points in the polls, that's when we'll really hit them. And Chuck Schumer really quickly goes to, yes, you're right. You're totally correct. Although, if you do go back to 2017, we did let the polls go down and we did hit them a little bit. Mars Falcon is getting it. Yes. No. And he's talking about the fever breaking. More on that in a moment.
It is different, but healthcare, we beat them. Taxes, we beat them. And guess what we did? Chris? We took back the House and won.
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed. Trump's tax bill passed. The Trump tax bill 2.0 going to pass. I don't see the beating happening here. Roe v. Wade repealed. I don't see the beating happening here, Chuck.
One in the Senate, and then we were allowed to do all those good things. This is not the only tactic. We have to stand strong in certain instances and not give them the votes at all. But there are instances with this, the two work together.
Okay. Again, I don't disagree with any of that, but the difference to me between 2017 and now, and I've been at this desk for both of them. It's different. It is a full-fledged assault on the constitutional order that has not been seen again.
Well, that's
certainly in my life.
That is true.
But the question then becomes...
But that's not the spending part.
That isn't. But then the question becomes, what is the role of the minority in resisting that? That's distinct from, we're going to beat them on healthcare, we're going to beat them on spending Medicaid.
Look, if our democracy is at risk...
It is at risk.
It is certainly at risk.
Well, do you believe it is?
But if...
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Do you believe it's at risk?
Trump doesn't obey the Supreme Court, which may happen, you led up to it here, then we will have two courts. We will have the federal courts.
But again, like, this is the thing that Chris Hayes is very politely getting at here. And Bam, I want to get your thoughts on this. But Chuck Schumer is literally talking about out of both sides of his mouth. He's saying, on the one hand, we're doing everything we can to fight Donald Trump, even though there's not much we can do. And then on the other hand, saying, hey, look, just because we're caught flat-footed here doesn't mean we're not preparing for the idea of, if Donald Trump decides to railroad the courts, the possibility that Donald Trump decides to railroad the courts, not the reality. Now, mind you, this is from 3 days ago, almost 4 days ago. So, maybe 4 days ago, he didn't understand that Donald Trump and Elon Musk were on an outright assault on the rule of law in this country, and that Republicans have been on this outright assault for, many decades, but definitely since Obama got elected, and definitely in Chuck Schumer's, many years and many administrations of his tenure. So I'm kind of just surprised that Chuck is here with us right now, and still trying to, say that, I don't know, things are fine. But if things weren't fine, it's like, first of all, things aren't fine. Second of all, don't talk as though things might be fine. I think that's why he double loses a lot of Democrats and even a lot of moderates, because you have the leftists who are like, oh, things aren't fine and things haven't been fine. But then you have the liberals who are like, oh, things have been fine, but things are looking like they may not be fine very soon. And Chuck Schumer and a lot of Democrats are telling people both, there's nothing to worry about. Don't believe your lying eyes, which is kind of what Republicans are saying.
Yeah, it seems like Chuck Schumer has this faith in the system kind of thing going on here. And he feels like whatever Trump may want to do, he won't be able to do. Look, dude, we hope you're right. But yeah, like you said, you believe your lying eyes. It's like, dude, you gotta see what's happening and respond to that. And it isn't like it's not like a comment is coming and you don't want people to panic. You know what I mean? It's like, this is something you can do something about. And bad lefty getting real Irish on this. You have the ability to do something. And the worst part about it really is that there were so many other of your colleagues that wanted to do this thing, and you went against it, like there's also a lot of arrogance behind that too. It's like, no, you guys are all wrong. Watch and see. And it's like, no, we think you're actually wrong.
And the Democratic Party to be like, no, majority does not rule, actually. It's crazy.
Which hopefully John Roberts will stand up and make it happen. But we'll have the court of public opinion. And if that happens, as you pointed out, we have had rule of law since the Magna Carta. Okay? And if that happens...
let's pause it. Yeah, there has been rule of law. See, that's what I'm talking about right there. Like, he has this...
When's the last time you were at the liquor store and you brought up the Magna Carta?
Right.
When's the last time you were at the barbershop and you brought up the Magna Carta? When's the last time you were at work and you brought up the Magna Carta and didn't get fired immediately afterwards?
Right. Like, you're talking about the Magna Carta, like, one that shit was like the 1200, like 1300, something like that. Like, to say, like, we have had the rule of law, you're like, yeah, like, Hitler had laws. The antebellum South had laws, too.
Jim Crow,
were
those
bad.
were laws.
Yeah, they were bad. Like, there are laws that are terrible, and there are people that enforce terrible laws. Like, whatever, like North Korea has laws. They are bad or whatever. So
there
it's like,
some pundits, there's some politicians that'll say, well, equal rights for trans people isn't popular. I'm like, I don't care.
Right. So, like, yeah, like he has this like
equal rights. It's equal rights.
He has this exceptionalist view of like quote unquote Western society, and he just has this idea that like Trump and Elon and whoever else won't break with that. And it's like they wouldn't actually be breaking with it. Most of this quote unquote Western society laws have been terrible. It has been freaking feudalism and then slavery capitalism. That's what most of it's been, Chuck. And you just find this this idea among some of these people that is like, you know, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but they just have this idea of like polite white society. And it's like, no, dude, like, especially somebody like Chuck Schumer, it's like, you're like one of the evil people for them. You better fight them, because if they get everything that they want, like, they're going to come for you too, even though like you ain't that far off, but you're like one of the worst ones for them. And yeah, I don't know why. He just has this idea that everything's going to work out. Like I said, I hope you're right. I hope that you're right, sir. I hope that whatever bureaucracy is in place will not let Trump do his worst and Elon do his worst. We've seen, you know, Trump take many a L to the courts. But I think that, you know, it's still early, you know? And like I said, you know, this fool's got like a lot of support out there. Trump does. And who knows how the tides will shift, you know? Not to bring it up again necessarily, but like as I mentioned before, like if it's like, oh, America's going to war with Iran, wartime presidents get a lot of leeway, dude. Yeah, it's gonna be bad to like be a politician and going against Trump if, you know, there's like some kind of 9/11 style terror attack, and then America's got to go to war with Iran and all this other shit. So anything could happen, Chuck. You're fucking up.
He's got this honest belief, and it's an honest belief that Democrats have had for a long time, that don't worry, be happy. Everything's going to be okay. And as long as, you know, we let the Republicans flail themselves out and we do nothing and we're just the calm alternative, people will come to us and people will love us. There's a good montage here from The Daily Show that shows otherwise.
This fever will break. All this excitement about Donald Trump, it's going to break. So it is like a cult. The fever will break.
Is this
2023,
the night the fever
2021.
will break?
A chance to break the fever.
I believe at some point
2013.
The fever will break.
I think you're going to see the fever.
2012.
President Obama saying, quote, now I believe when we're successful in this election that the fever may break.
This fever may break is the idea that, like we're saying, you let the Republicans trip on their dicks enough and things will be fine. There's also been the strategy, and again, this is the why portion of Power Report. Why is Chuck Schumer doing this? I think he's also evil, but also he's lazy. This is from a clip in 2016 where he's talking about how he believes to be the Democrats' path to victory. Now, remind you, this is July of 2016, and we know what happened in November of 2016. So,
but before you play that, I would love for those people to have answered what the fever is.
Oh, the fever was Trump fever.
Yeah, what's behind that fever though?
Oh, bam. It's lower taxes and smaller government, of course. Nothing more nefarious or slurry than that. It's a good thing we have things like DEI and CRT to obscure the slurs now. Anyways.
And it's already won a large percentage of those people over. On the
How
other
does he look older?
That for every, this is the second point, for every blue-collar Democrat we will lose in Western PA, we will pick up 2-3 moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And you can repeat that in Ohio and Illinois and Wisconsin. The voters who are most out there figuring out what to do are not the blue-collar Democrats. They are the college-educated Republicans who lean Republican or are independent and in the suburbs.
All right, let's.
So it's the college-educated Republicans who are gettable. This was Chuck Schumer's opinion in 2016. And again, like there's this like extreme gaslighting that has been done for a long time on all these different issues. Like Chuck Schumer knows how to come way too late onto some sort of, hot button issue for the Democrats and for the left more broadly. And then he will say that, oh, I'm really fighting hard for this. Oh, I'm really spearheading this. I'm going to use all of my power to make sure this happens. And then after one fight, he does nothing, and dick, you never hear from it again. Here is, because I remember this from a particular previous warpath of mine, the 4th of February, 2021. We covered the first 100 days of the Biden administration, similarly to how we covered the first 100 days of Trump's administration right now. What's the Democratic Party doing? What's the Republican Party doing? Are there any narratives or key themes? And the Democrats were really trying to, Chuck Schumer had jumped onto something that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have been working on for a long time in different forms, which is student debt relief. Something that's been very popular amongst Democratic constituents for a long time. This is Chuck Schumer speaking February 4th, 2021. And you would be surprised, based on how tough he's speaking here, that you almost forgot that he spoke about any of this. Let's take a look here.
Senator Warren and I have researched this thoroughly. Other presidents have done it, not in the magnitude we're asking, but the fact that they have been able to do it shows there is legal authority. We have met with the president. We are pushing the president and his people, and we are very hopeful that the cry from one end of America to the other, take this student loan debt off our backs, will be heard in the White House, and we can accomplish this goal. And I'll tell you one thing, we are not going to let up until we accomplish it, until $50,000 of debt is forgiven for every student in the country. This is also a civil rights issue. A disproportionate burden of student debt falls on people of color, oftentimes because they were taken advantage of by a lot of these awful, despicable, disgusting If I was just here in New York, I'd use more dirty words. For-profit colleges. And then these poor folks, they don't even have a degree. And then they can't get a good job.
So that's Chuck Schumer back then. And you remember, all of us remember how much political capital that Chuck Schumer spent after 2021 on making sure that student debt relief was handled. He said a similar thing about the George Floyd Accountability and Policing Act, or the Lewis voting bill. All these other different, lick your finger in the wind and put it up. What is cool right now for the Democrats, but not going to stand for anything type shit, right? And so you're seeing a lot of different things. JB Pritzker said that, Schumer is taking a moderate approach that I think is, he thinks is really good, that I think is just disqualifying for JB Pritzker. Other state representatives, are saying that Schumer needs to do more, and they're really upset with this. Of course, we're hearing all these different things back and forth about primarying Chuck Schumer when he's up for re-election. The thing that kind of set me off here, this is a really quick clip, and then I will be fair to Chuck Schumer with something that just came out about 3 hours before he went live. But Chuck Schumer was kind of speaking head on about his strategy when it came to dealing with the Democratic Party at this time. And so here's some of that podcast audio right here. This is the host of the New York Times interview series who is speaking here, and I forget her name, frankly. So I'm a sexist on Women's History Month. But anyways, here's that clip.
I've heard you and I've heard other Democratic leaders talk about the next election as if it's just going to be another election like any other election.
Well, Lulu Garcia Navarro, by the way, is the person speaking, interviewing Schumer.
But my question is, there has been all of this discussion about Trump auguring in the end of democracy.
Okay.
We have seen
Yes.
all these measures being taken by the Trump
Okay.
administration,
Yep.
that are pushing back democratic
Okay,
norms in this
listen.
country.
Yes.
So I am wondering if you think it is going to be just business
I
as
worry
usual.
about this. This is a very serious. When I say we'll win the election, I'm assuming democracy stays, but that we have to fight to make sure that happens. Let me just say a few things. I am worried about that. I think that
Who is we, Chuck? Who is we?
that Trump is destroying norms that have preserved our democracy for probably for centuries, certainly for decades. And he's destroying them, and he doesn't care. What is our best bulwark? It's the courts. And one of the things which is proving very, very good is we put in 235 new judges, and they're now hearing so many of the cases that attorneys general, private citizens, unions, and others are bringing. We've had a preliminary success in that we filed 100 cases. We have won with TROs, usually not a final determination, temporary restraining order, about 87% of them. They have had just this week, a judge threw out the cuts to NIH.
Are they going to respect those court orders?
That is 100. That is the $64,000. So let us say.
So to be clear, there, Schumer is saying. Now we saw that Trump had no regard for the rule of law during the first term, and we did nothing to highlight this, while Biden was in office, to put these protections into place, to make the case for the American people why you should have these protections into place, why Republicans and Republican voters should even want those protections into place. And we didn't spend really any time on that. Instead, Chuck Schumer spent time on dangling carrots of debt relief in front of Democratic Party constituents that Chuck Schumer had no interest whatsoever in actually addressing. Chuck Schumer is talking about, oh, well, it's okay. We can't do anything because we didn't do anything in the past 4 years or any other time as a party to centralize these norms. But what we did do was, throw our hands up in the air to the courts. the courts who Republicans appoint more court members of for. So like it's just ridiculous. And Chuck is being pushed on this. Like, you know, what if Trump overgoes the courts? Like we even saw this now with the immigration case and the deportation cases. Trump is saying that, well, this plane that's deporting you know, green card holders or, you know, former green card holders supposedly outside of the law, because this plane is outside of American airspace, the Supreme Court no longer applies. Even though that same airspace was literally just renamed as the Gulf of America by Donald Trump. Right? So like he's contradicting his own laws, which gives you some question about the rule of law. And then you go to the rule of law, which in many cases, you know, in somewhat surprising cases, Chief Justice John Roberts gave a rebuke towards Donald Trump today, or, you know, over the past week, which makes me believe that he's going to give him a really horrendous, life-changing, history-changing win sometime in the next couple months, if not sooner. That's all that signals to me, is that, okay, I'll pretend to slap you on the wrist here so that I can give you everything you want to on a silver platter in a couple months from now, right? Despite all of this, Chuck Schumer is still acting as though the constitutional crisis is a possibility. That's not actually happening. The thing we said on Power Report is that the fascism is already here. And we were saying that during the Biden administration. We're saying that during the first Trump administration, frankly, you know, in less concise terms. But for Chuck Schumer to not be prepared for the fascism, when one of the first 10 episodes of Power Report was 40 ways to fight fascists. Like, we've been doing this on YouTube here for a minute. There's a lot of people on the left who like haven't figured this out as quickly as we wanted to, but most people have on the left. Most liberals have. Again, Chris Hayes, fairly progressive, but an MSNBC anchor, so pretty liberal. New York Times columnist, pretty liberal. They're all addressing Chuck Schumer here like, dude, are you where are you? Are you with us right now? There's one last thing he gets to here. I know I want to answer one of the calls we have right here really quickly, but I want to get to this grounding finishing part here because it's just like, oh, this man's lost it. This should be the nail in the coffin for Chuck Schumer's career coming up here.
The courts uphold this, and one of the people who will determine that more than any other is probably John Roberts, who is very conservative, far to the right for my taste. I didn't vote for him. But I do believes in the courts in terms of somewhat of their have to be obeyed and respected. And so I think even at the highest level, if you get the Supreme Court upholding the law, it will matter. What if Trump keeps going? That's the question everybody's asking. And I worry about this. I think a lot. I wake up sometimes once at 2, 3 in the morning thinking about this. I believe this, and it's a little bit in concert with what I've said to you before. I believe Republican senators on this issue will stand up. I've talked to some of them. About 5 or 6 have said publicly they will work to uphold the courts and to uphold the law if Trump tries to break it. And we can do that legislatively if we have to. That's my hope. That's what we got to work towards. And I think there's a decent chance that would happen, particularly if Trump 3 months from now is less popular. And then if Trump goes to the highest level and violates all the court orders, I will work really hard to get our Republican. This is the one place above all where our Republican colleagues should and have to stand up to him.
You know, I've covered a lot of countries going through
So again, he's like, okay, I've talked to Republicans on and off the record. They're like, we've got to protect the courts. We've got to protect the courts. And I, Chuck Schumer, from the bottom of my heart and the little hairs of my chinny chin really believe that this will be the moment that the fever breaks for Republicans. The same shit they've been telling us for 15 years. This will be the moment when the fever breaks. And Lulu, and I never say this about the New York crimes, Lulu is about to ask a warpath question here in a very New York Times polite way. So you could easily miss it. But this is a vicious question. And like when liberals start asking polite NPR calm vicious questions, you're done. You're done. Thanks for playing, but we're out.
One place above all where our Republican colleagues should and have to stand up to him.
You know, I've covered a lot of countries going through democratic backsliding all over the world. And it's a very difficult process to roll back once it is underway. And I've seen how often opposition parties fail to recognize until it's too late that they might have been made irrelevant. And I wonder if you think that the Democratic Party might be making that mistake.
No, I think we're fighting very hard on every front. And initially, we've had some successes, but we got to keep at it and we got to be open to new suggestions and ways to do it. But I think what we're doing is working so far.
It's such a straight up like, Senator, my job is to cover crumbling dictatorships and empires. And the number one pattern I see is the opposition party sitting on its thumbs so long that they smell like shit, that by the time the tanks are already about to roll them over, they're like, that's okay, we've got the parliamentarian. So it's like, Schumer, do you not worry about the Democrats repeating rhyming history and being one of those many opposition parties in history that does nothing in the face of evil? Chuck Schumer's like, yeah, we're doing pretty good so far. Don't worry about it. It's all good. It's all good. Bam, your thoughts?
Yeah, once again, I mean, he's talking about these 5 or 6 Republicans that'll stand up. I hope you got more than that. Like I said, I hope you're right, but I feel like these people that he, is buddies with, he's known these guys for a long time on the other side of the aisle. They are more interested in power than what you think, Mr. Schumer. And something that I've been saying for a long time and is always my protest sign, male insecurity is the most dangerous force in the world. These guys, they just want to, they're looking at any way that they can have any sense of power. If they got to freaking shine Donald Trump's shoes, they will do it. If they feel like that's going to keep them in power, those senators, those people in Congress, they're going to do that. Schumer, like, you think that these people care about democracy? I hope you're right, but I don't think that they really do. Can
I just say really quickly, I don't even think Schumer thinks he's right. I'm going to load up a video really quickly that's just like this is a late breaking sort of news event because Chuck Schumer, NBC, Meet the Press, media whores as they are. Although, thank for you for doing the good work and not for paywalling all of your clips so we can treat them in fair use as we should. They released a clip showing Schumer catching up and finally admitting it. We got to assume this interview was probably done today, maybe Wednesday evening, Thursday morning, afternoon, evening. We're talking on Thursday evening right now. This is the last clip. And this is Chuck Schumer admitting that, what we've been trying to say, like, there's no more ifs, dude. We got to actually talk about this. And there's no more, Chuck Schumer, let's hope you're right, buddy. We're actually here.
This week, the president called to impeach a judge who ruled against him on deportations of alleged Venezuelan gang members, as you know. Supreme Court Justice John Roberts released a rare statement rebuking the idea of using impeachment to settle judicial disagreements. Some constitutional scholars and fellow Democrats Leader Schumer say this is a constitutional crisis. Do you agree? Is the United States in a constitutional crisis?
Yes, I do, Kristen, and democracy is at risk. Look, Donald Trump is a lawless, angry man. He thinks he should be king. He thinks he should do whatever he wants, regardless of the law. And he thinks judges should just listen to him. Now, we have to fight that back in every single way. And we actually have had over 100 cases in the courts where we've had a very good record of success. So Donald Trump, infuriated by that success, said judges should be impeached.
He and I have to definitely debate.
Donald Trump and the American people, Democrats in the Senate will not impeach judges, full stop.
President Trump said he would not defy a court order. Do you agree? Do you believe him?
I don't trust him. We have to watch him like a hawk. Defying court orders is why our democracy is at risk, and we'll have to do everything to fight back in that regard.
Thanks for watching.
Okay. Well, it's okay. Chuck Schumer's finally woken up and he realized that we might be in a constitutional crisis. He was denying that. He was saying it's possible, but that he believes in his Republican colleagues. Now he's been upgraded in 2025 to a good old-fashioned, I'm not sure if I take Donald Trump at his word. Chuck Schumer, welcome to the resistance. A phrase that was old in 2017. Bam, your last thoughts.
I'd love to welcome people on the line. You've had them waiting for years. We got to get the people on the line. People are more passionate about Chuck Schumer than I am, and I want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah. We'll get that ready. We'll get the call-in portion going. Again, the link is on in the description on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, it should be youtube.com/Dan from the internet/live. If you're watching anywhere else, otherwise it should be in somewhere in my replies or somewhere in my recent tweets on X and Blue Sky. So check there. But Dan
still got Twitter. Still, you're gonna get a Tesla. You're about to get a Tesla. Just say it. You're gonna get a Tesla. It's okay.
I read Twitter for the articles. Bam. That's what I do. I'm gonna bring on Sandy Lovas, Left of the Box. Check them out at youtube.com/Left of the Box. Sandy, with a little bit of our Canada report here. You're on the stream with audio only. Are you there?
Is this me?
It is you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Sandy from Ontario.
Sandy from Ontario. What's on your mind?
Well, I can answer two of your questions that you were having, because I was just, as you guys were talking about Chuck Schumer, I just kind of realized Chuck Schumer is to Democrats what Cenk Uygur is to the left right now.
Oh, yeah. No, I think, Kyle Kulinski, Sam Cedar, Emma Vigeland, myself, a number of others have tried to subtly make this comparison between everything that Cenk and Anna were doing, and they thought it was subversive immediately after the election. You're now seeing the worst and most inept mainstream establishment Democrats also taking that same position, which should be a red flag for a media organization, or not even just to pick on TYT, but it's a lot of people have made this mistake. Gavin Newsom is also trying to brand himself as outside the establishment, willing to buck the trends of the Democratic Party. But it's kind of wild that you are claiming to do that when you're adopting so many voices from the right. And it seems like Chuck Schumer is very much within that. Now, whether he really believes that or whether it's because so many of his donors and backers and the people who have him on speed dial are from these same, places of power that the Republican administration also really cares about. I think that's an open question that people can draw their own dots to. But I think that's a really good point you're making, Sandy. And I hope that's become clear in my coverage and everyone else's coverage, that this just not to beat a dead horse, but it just further underscores how loud and wrong that opinion was.
Yeah,
And
well,
I've never hated being this right, honestly.
yeah, well, it's just like the condescending tone of, I know what's best for everyone else. I know what the other side is thinking. I'm going to work with them to work out this grand plan, and everyone else is wrong. Meanwhile, all of the other people that are like the colleagues, like the other Democrats or all the other kind of online leftist content creators are screaming, yelling, saying, this is the wrong move. But they're like, nope, nope, my move is right. Even though everyone else is saying I'm wrong, I'm doing the right thing here. It's me. I know how this works. No one else does. I do. Like, that's the vibe that I'm getting from this right now. Even though, like, what he did is not a democratic move, like, for the Democrats at all. Just like Cenk isn't doing what a leftist would do, but still trying to claim to be, you know, the spokesperson for that team. So that was my thoughts on that. But also, another question that you were kind of posing out there, who are we worried about?
Wait, can I also say really quickly, Bam, can you lower your camera a little bit, because you're doing the opposite of forehead, now your chin camera? And it's just like, yeah, now you're drowning in the Chiron. That's great. Let Bam do what he wants to do. But anyway.
It looks like he's eating my name.
Well, he's gonna be looking for citizenship soon, so.
Well, no way I'm going down to the States right now. Yeah, so another question that you had that kind of, it's something that I saw, well, I didn't see a long time ago. I just worried about a long time ago, a few years ago, seeing Charlie Kirk talk at one of the Republican big events, their big event or whatever it is, the RNC.
It's like CPAC. Yeah,
the RNC. Seeing Charlie Kirk talk at that, and I'm like, if he ever sobers up enough and decides to run for president, you guys are screwed. Like, seriously, he will have the camps, like the death camps. Like,
that's if he becomes president, but like if he's not appointed to the presidency, I hear you, but I just don't think he's got the sauce. Like, I think Ben Shapiro is persuadable, but to be a US president, you kind of have to be an avatar. And I don't think enough people see themselves in Charlie Kirk. Like, enough men see themselves in Andrew Tate, but like not enough men to get you the presidency. You still need enough white women to be able to look at that and go, oh, I would not cover my drink over while being around that man, right? It's like Donald Trump.
You're assuming it's going to be a fair process.
That's fair, yeah.
It's just a lot of fairness in elections are out the door. Like, even here in Canada, we have like free democratic elections or whatever, and that's a whole bunch of bullshit on, you know, first past the post and how that works. And the fact that, you know, somebody can become the leader of the province with only 18% of possible votes. Like, it's not a representative democracy, but it is a democracy. If that makes sense.
How have your the storied Canadian judicial system, how have they been approaching all of this? Because, you know, Chuck Schumer out here has his, like, you know, we may not have a lot of parliamentary power, so to speak, but, you know, as long as we have our courts and as long as we have our, you know, founding documents, then we will look out of this at the end of the tunnel after a couple years, and we'll be okay. Well,
in Canada, the courts, generally speaking, rule in the right way the majority of the times, because they stick to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and they take it they apply it realistically, as opposed to like, here's the exact spot where the comma is, but if you change where that comma is, then it totally changes the context of the sentence. So they apply the what's the word? The feel of it, the vibe of it, the not the nature.
I think it's like constitutional originality, or like some sort of like made up conservative phrase we use up down here.
The spirit of it. They apply the spirit of it.
Yeah. Originalism is what we also do. I mean, originalism is the opposite of what you're describing there. But yeah.
Yeah, and but that doesn't stop like a premier or potentially the prime minister from using the notwithstanding clause, and then there's nothing you can do. And people in Canada don't like to protest because it's like cold up here or something. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. We have Mark Carney in charge right now. He has the polls are swinging in his favor because people want.
That's the replacement for Justin Trudeau, who's like lost votes of confidence, and he's going to be leading the Liberal Party in Canada, a party that was looking pretty cooked in the Democrats kind of way, except for the Liberal Party's favorite Republican, Donald John Trump, who allowed, one of the earliest things you taught me, Sandy, was the idea of maple washing, which is that you can, much like in America, certain moments of certain opportunities can ignite a certain exceptionalism, a certain jingoism that gets citizens of Canada, especially, and even, American compatriots and those who pay attention to Canadian politics outside of that, it can get them all hyped up and, Canada is this shining maple tree on a hill where we can get things done, and we can I've been saying the phrase throw the gloves off a lot in Canada when it comes to the United States. And I think it's like, I remember specifically talking to you saying like, oh, the Liberal Party is going to lose, right? And you're like, oh, absolutely. This is before the inauguration. And then once Trump starts poking the bear, complete reversal. And so, yeah, I'd love for you to speak to that. Well, and whether or not it's like gonna hold or whether it's a mirage, and that those same like sort of concerns that people were having about the Liberal Party can come back if people start to like, hypothetically, Trump starts to ease off of the tariffs a little bit, and people start to think of, okay, with America and that external sort of concern no longer a big issue, we're now going to look towards the internal things, the cost of living, price increases, rent, all these other different things that are going on in Canada that people are disliking.
Yeah, well, I had been saying it's like, yes, the Liberals were absolutely going to lose unless they do something drastic like replace Justin Trudeau, because a lot of the people were voting more against Justin Trudeau because he lost favorability more than anything else. And so people were just too fed up with him, the whole F Trudeau flags and everything. And a lot of the policy and stuff was attached to his name. So when Justin Trudeau stepped down and we have Mark Carney up, let's face it, straight white man that is, he has an air of authority around him. But then also Trump started on with the whole 51st state rhetoric. And so then you have a whole bunch of right wingers up here that, it's a battle between their right wingism, their racism and all that sort of stuff, and their nationalism. And the nationalism tends to win out a lot of the times. Like the extreme right wingers, they're like, we want to be Americans. Yeah, 51st state, woo, woo, woo. But the vast majority of conservatives are also very nationalistic. And so there's been like this renaissance in Canadian pride going on right now. And we've kind of taken the Canadian flag back from the freedom truckers. But like Mark Carney, and I was hoping to talk about this on my stream. Hopefully my stream will work sometime soon. He did something smart but lazy. And that is he got rid of the carbon tax. And it's lazy because the carbon tax was actually a net benefit to people. People got like a rebate and things of that sort. And it was like the bare bones, something you could do for the environment. But it was smart because that was part of Pierre Poilievre's, like that was his main campaign slogan was axe the tax. Well, here's Mark Carney. He just axed the tax. And so he can take that. And again, since so many people are, there's a lot of like the hatred right now, like the rage of Trump constantly referring to us as the 51st state, and very little pushback from Pierre Poilievre. Like there was just like some milquetoast, like he looked like he was being forced to say that Canada would never be the 51st state, but everyone thinks of Trump when they think of Poilievre. Because, up until recently, that's the connection, Poilievre and Trump. So now having that connection is a little toxic. And it's actually a lot more detrimental to the conservative move to be attached to that name brand. Even though recently Trump said something along the lines of like, oh, I actually don't like Pierre at all. I really like Mark Carney and think I can work with him. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That is, a lot of people are honestly thinking they're trying to do the reverse psychology thing, but that's giving, Trump way too much credit for intelligence to try something like that.
It's the Schumer mindset. It's the idea of, oh no, I can make you think that's what you want, but also, it feels like a cop out.
I think Trump likes Mark Carney better because Mark Carney comes across more as a alpha, whereas Pierre Poilievre, the only thing you really want to do to him is like throw him in lockers. Like he just has that vibe of the idea that he's that character from The Simpsons, whatever that nerdy kid's name is. I forget off the top of my head. But he has, like Pierre Poilievre just has this vibe of being an absolute cuck. And Trump doesn't respect that at all. He respects people being loyal to him and all that sort of stuff. Or he doesn't even respect the people okay, let's face it. He doesn't respect anyone, but he also doesn't really respect the people who are loyal to him. But he has a little bit more of the perception of respect towards people that at least show a lot of strength, especially right out the gate. And Mark Carney did that, even though Mark Carney will not be a net benefit for Canada. He's just going to be status quo. He's a banker. All of the things that he's going to be doing will be to benefit corporations, which he is a conservative. He's just a conservative. That's all he is, which actually might make a lot of the actual conservatives vote for him because he's not a liberal at all, just flat out conservative. And the minister roles that he's picked right now reflect that. The fact that there's certain roles that he didn't include, such as like the women and disabilities and inclusion ministries and all that don't exist right now. So there's a lot that it's kind of like highlighting Mark Carney is not the answer. He's just kind of what people want in this moment to compete against the United States, because a lot of Canadians are feeling really vulnerable and they want somebody who's strong, who will actually stand up to Trump, because, a lot of people up here might talk a lot of shit, but I think we all know that if the States wants to, there's nothing really stopping them from taking over Canada. And again, I don't think it would ever be like a boots on the ground type thing. It'd be like a hostile takeover like you would see corporations do. But there's not really anything stopping the United States from doing that, other than, our friendships, our partnerships and stuff, which Trump has just totally thrown to the wind. So to have somebody who at least comes across as being strong and standing up to him and all that sort of stuff makes a lot of Canadians just feel better in the moment. But I think once this tariff threat goes away, once it goes away, and if Mark Carney gets elected in, then I think it's going to turn on him very quick, because people realize, wait a sec, you're not actually solving any of our problems. You were just, speaking out against that one thing. But, our quality of life here isn't getting any better.
I think what America would try to do is like, I want to say it was in the 60s. I can't remember when, not big pharma, but like the American kind of medical establishment were doing whatever they could to get rid of universal healthcare in Canada. Just like try to get someone in power in Canada that would basically give up the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're like, I think a lot of people are worried that Pierre Poilievre would give up the country in certain ways. Mark Carney is at least saying he won't. So yeah, there's a lot. It's It's an uncomfortable time to be Canadian with our neighbors right now. And a lot of Canadians are afraid to go down to the States. I think the visitation from Canadians down to the States have absolutely plummeted, which is going to hurt a lot of industries and stuff.
We just
down
had a
there.
story. I was just
Mhm.
I realized I've only been on camera for 2 hours and I've just been in meetings for the other 17. But like I was just talking with someone about how there was just someone who was held in ICE detention and they were in the United States on a Canadian visa. This was
Mhm.
a cis white woman going to college who, as far as I could tell, was not really related to a pro-Palestinian anything other than like maybe passively on social media, if that.
Mhm.
But like I don't even think I read that. But like as an American citizen, I have some second thoughts about things that are supposed to be my rights and being able to like, leave and go certain places. When I saw that travel ban list, I'm like, oh, what if I'm abroad and then one of the countries I'm going to, scouting out maybe, all of a sudden gets made orange and it's just impossible for me to move. Like it's crazy, man.
Yeah, well, I don't even think I could travel down to the States to be locked up in the first place, just given, my passport has an X on it.
Mm.
So I don't even know if I'd be accepted into the United States right now. But yeah, I've been hoping to do some live streams recently, but my computer is totally.
Yeah, I know you were trying to get the word out about that. And that's unfortunate. My old reliable is getting pretty old and a little less reliable. Even during the stream, during StreamYard, which is definitely not OBS. My computer crashed a little bit, and thank you, Professional Bam, for holding it down. But yeah, I really, especially right now when money is a little bit tight and unpredictable. Thank you, government. I'm not trying to. I'm very prescient to the concerns of like working technology and all these other different things. I'm constantly thinking about it, and so definitely continue to support Sandy Lovas with and Left to the Box with the stuff that she is doing on kind of on YouTube, but also on social media as well. I know I've seen you on Blue Sky here and there, and I've generally found Blue Sky to be more enjoyable, just both in like the vibe of people who are there, but also just like the raw metrics and numbers. It seems like my posts get seen more by people there, and not shadow banned or whatever we're gonna say. So I'm definitely happy about that. But yeah, hopefully you are able to work out some of your tech issues.
I'm looking at it right now because I'm on my work computer right now, and I'm so absolutely frustrated. It was updates with Windows and OneDrive, and I accidentally hit sync, and so it steals all of your documents. And when you work with OBS, you know that all of your files and stuff are live attached to it. So if they get moved, they disappear. And right now, OBS doesn't even recognize the file that they're in unless I manually go into each and every single file and redirect it. Now that I finally unlinked my computer from OBS because I deleted a folder that was taking forever to upload and I had a backup of. But it means for my editing program, for my OBS, I have to individually go and find all of those files because OBS isn't recognizing the folders. It's and I was hoping to, on my last live stream that I was all ready to do, had my docket all lined up before I noticed this nightmare of a mess. I was going to be announcing that, my vampire book is available as paperback.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where can folks get that?
On Amazon. It's called Necroplasm. Stupid title, I know. But it's loaded with like social and political commentary that if you're a fan of my show, you'll probably really love this book. And it has vampires. So yeah, people can buy that. It'd super make me feel better right now. Because it's been one hell of a week just trying to get all this computer stuff sorted out. And it's still not completely sorted out. And I'm just kind of at my wit's end because I'm not a tech person. I know a couple techie people.
Yeah, if you're one of those techie people, please reach out to Sandy right now. Well, thank you very much for giving your thoughts. Definitely hang in there, and folks, check out the Necroplasm book that you did on Amazon, and follow Left of the Box on YouTube and throughout everywhere on social media while you're getting your tech stuff fixed. Godspeed. Also, a lot of people, folks, are able to just like thug it out with their work computer and their phone. So if that's not able to stop, if that's not stopping you too hard, then definitely keep at it.
Oh, okay. I like that you got my profile picture up there, though.
I figured it out slowly, but we made it work.
No, I took this picture in July.
It's snowing in July, folks, you see? And they say there's global warming. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, folks.
Totally took this picture in July. Uh-huh.
All right. Thank you, Sandy.
Take care. See ya.
Okay. That was good.
Is there anybody else in the queue?
No, I also did a bad job of marketing this. So,
I thought Bad Lefty was supposed to be in there.
Listen, there's a lot of options for a lot of people to join into the chat. I'm going to post the link in here one more time, one more again.
Did you? It says 5 minutes. What happened?
What do you mean it says 5 minutes?
I'm not going to read the private chat, but.
Oh, I was talking about different person. The time codes are not showing there, but I sent that chat a long time ago, actually.
Yeah, it says 7:18, but
yeah, no, wrong lefty. Anyways, yeah, no, there is. I mean, we went through a lot of things there really quickly. I mean,
it wasn't that quick. It's been a couple hours.
No, I mean, like, there were a lot of stories here, but we managed to get a lot of those stories in the first hour and a half or so, hour and 10 minutes. So, would you like to watch some Republicans catching smoke at town halls?
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Let's do it.
Now the GOP has been kind of telling their Congress people to, like, hey, maybe don't go to town halls. It's not going to work out very well for you. Nevertheless, they persisted. And here's a YouTube short. You don't get many of these very often. From CNN of a town hall. Let me figure out where this is really quickly before we play it. This is a representative from Washington State, Michael Baumgartner. Oh, you know his kinfolk had slaves. Baumgartner. Anyways, or worse. Here we go.
I've been in Spokane for 39 years from New Jersey. I've never been involved in politics before, but this is getting really scary. Okay, so the things that frighten me is the way this insane president talks about Canada as a 51st state. Yeah. Taking Panama by force and buying Greenland. How does this person qualify as sane? Why is he not being impeached right now?
Wrong country.
Yeah, what we don't show after this is that all of these people get arrested immediately afterwards.
The funny thing is that you're seeing, I don't know if Elon said this, but on the right, they're saying that these people showing up to the town halls are paid activists.
Elon said this too. Yes.
Elon said it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, nobody could have any problems. It's just really funny too because, like, when this person was saying like about Greenland and Canada and Panama, like already in my mind, not that I normalized it, but I've like, it's just like that's just like talk from Trump. But at the same time, it's just really a shame that these are things that he's like wasting his time talking about or like taking serious when people have real needs in this country. Like, there are people with real needs, and like you are supposed to be addressing them. And not only are you are supposed to be addressing them, okay, and you also campaigned as the person that is going to address them. And yeah, like your own people are like, dude, that's cute, but like you said you were going to do this and you were going to do that, and like that's not happening. We don't want to hear about Panama and Greenland, dude. Like, that's not going to do anything for us. We want to know about eggs and some other whatever the hell they elected him for, like grocery prices and
racial slurs and making my political enemies feel bad, and more jiggle physics in video games. That's what Donald Trump was elected for.
Right. And yeah, so I guess, there are some people getting deported. I guess they're happy about that. Oh my God, 200 Venezuelans. Oh, we're all safe now. Colorado, the streets of Chicago are safe now. The Venezuelans, all 200 of them are gone. But like, yeah, as far as the impeachment, yeah, that's not going to happen over that. But he's just wasting time talking about this stuff when you're elected to help the people in a material way. Joe Biden was over here talking about student loan debt. He did what he could. That's a material thing that helped people. He did what he could. The Supreme Court blocked.
No. He took the path of least resistance. He could have done more.
Okay, well,
we don't have to fight that fight.
Okay, but he did something to materially help people. Donald Trump has done none of that, has not talked about any of that. The things that he talked about, that he campaigned on, they haven't happened.
I'll put it like this. Like, both Joe Biden and Donald Trump put on performances for their base to make it look like they were doing more than they did.
Okay,
let me finish. Joe Biden's performances were at least more tangible, right? Like,
something happened.
It was a death mission to begin with, and Joe Biden fought on the margins for people to get, legally non-binding and easily turnoverable debt relief, as we're seeing right now. Because Donald Trump holds the Department of Education right now, there are people who are on deferred loan plans who are now having all of their deferred interest accrue at once. So their loan payments are going from $250 a month, already kind of a tough bargain for, a lot of jobs and a lot of people's like student debt and a lot of people's situations in this inflation economy, going from $250 to a cool $1,150 a month. All right.
Yeah.
So this is like, at least like Joe Biden was pretending to help, but there was fully help in that situation. There wasn't pretending to help, but actively hurting. And that's like my only tweak to your what you're saying, Bam, is that like I think the Democrats from the jump knew they didn't want to cancel student debt relief. I knew that, but they at least care about the Kabuki theater enough to make it look like it. And in that Kabuki theater, they're not actively trying to harm people.
Okay, I will go back to my original statement. There were people that got helped from that student loan debt relief.
I agree.
And
the student loan debt relief was not as wide reaching as they thought it was, but they were like, okay, we did the political stunt of going for the wide reaching option in a way that we knew was going to fail, when we knew there were better ways to go for the wide reaching option that would have at least tied it up in the courts, which is Trump's strategy for doing Hitler cosplay. And I wish Joe Biden would be like, okay, let's steamroll the courts, but let's forgive people's loans, versus Donald Trump going, let's steamroll the courts and pretend to be Hitler. But again, that's neither here nor there. I will concede to what Bam is saying in that after that obvious, suicide mission of broad student debt relief, I think to like $20,000, not even Chuck Schumer's $50,000. The Biden administration tried, the SAVE program. They tried to help people who were in public service. They tried to help people who had been paying their loans for a bunch of years, but for 20 or 30 years, they're like, screw it, we'll forgive it. They did a lot of that stuff. And at least Biden did that. Trump is actively reversing those things. And he also never really had any platform of like, oh yeah, we're gonna, fix student loan issues for people. By the way, Trump University. I don't need to say more.
Right.
That's a student loan issue.
Right. So yeah, like I was saying, there was something material there, and the material thing that Trump ran on, from what I remember, was grocery prices. That's the material thing, and that hasn't happened. And he kind of conceded. Black people. Well, no, I'm saying like material that's supposed to like help a person, like deporting people and deleting Jackie Robinson from people's brains. Like that's not material, but like the material thing, like, was grocery prices. If there was anything else, I don't remember, but he already kind of conceded that, and at the very least, it hasn't happened. I don't buy eggs. I don't know, but I hear they're expensive still. I forgot what I was saying now because you interrupted me 5 times.
What you were talking about was
no, it's already over. You interrupted me 4 times, and now I forgot.
At least I can interrupt but remember what you were talking about because I am an attentive listener.
I should have known as soon as I mentioned Biden, you were going to freaking go crazy. That's why I was laughing. As soon as I said Biden, like, ah! I say Trump, you're chilling. I say Biden, you going off.
What you were talking about was similarly on that vein, actually, where, there's a difference, kind of what we were debating was like, lightly debating. But what we were talking about was the difference between Joe Biden, who is actually trying to get student debt relief done, versus Republicans who are like, fuck yeah. So, and that contrast as we're talking about these town hall rallies, where it's very fun, I think, for leftists to look at the palace intrigue within the Democratic Party, because we already kind of know the Republicans are like far gone. But there's a whole lot of schadenfreude to be mined from the fact that you have Democrats here. Sorry, you have red-blooded, white, grits and sugar Republicans from the Southland. Grits and salt. Who are
I'm a salt, and I don't do sweet grits. I don't do that.
Bam, that's probably the only thing we've agreed with on the Power Report.
Oh my God, thank you. There we go. The fucking sugar and the grits is like,
some salt, a little bit of that, the vegan butter spread. Now that I get there, that's a Sunday breakfast right there. But anyways, in the context of this like voter confrontation here, even the white Republican women are getting pissed. And I kind of saw this too, because there was one town hall rally, I want to say a month ago, where a white woman was pulled out by cops. And I hate to sound like a hotep on this, but like in America, especially because so much of the conservative movement has been built on this, house of cards around defending white women. That's where all the anti-trans stuff comes. That's where all the anti-immigrant stuff comes. That's where all the abortion stuff comes. It's supposedly under this guise of we are protecting the family, and the family is what keeps white women safe. And if white women are safe, they can have lots of babies for white men and perpetuate their political ideology. That's it, right? So once you see that class of people getting treated like black men, getting treated almost like black women, getting treated like Asians during World War II, Japanese during internment. Once you start seeing that shit, it's like, oh, okay. These are the rudders for me to tell that America is like, we're really getting into the cool zone, so to speak.
Well, yeah, and especially at some kind of political, like a Republican political event, because if it was a white lady at the BLM protest, you're getting dragged. But yeah, who knows? We know the cops in this country are damn near like 90% Republican and probably 85% QAnon, and so they're probably thinking these are paid activists as well. Like I'm really surprised that. I mean, actually, I don't know. I'm not like locked in like that, but I would imagine there are people.
Ma'am, you're right. You don't even have to be locked in at that point. Like, you're right. They're assuming. I mean, that's the cold open we played of Elon Musk. At one hand, he was like, "These people are crazy. They're mentally ill," and he was like, "No, actually, they're paid by the Jews." And he stopped himself from going that far. But he said that, there are these outside interests that you don't know where they're coming from, which is the dog whistle that conservatives use for globalists, these international interests, which is
George Soros.
George Soros, Jews. Like, again, I wasn't born yesterday. I may be 7 1/4, but I was not born yesterday. I've seen how this game works. And yeah, I have another town hall clip. If you want to play it. This is, let's see, Mike Flood of Nebraska taking some heat on CNN, at least. Oh, like the description of a reporter taking some heat on here too. I'll play this whole clip here, just to get the context for myself. Sorry here.
Boiling over at a town hall in Nebraska. Republican Congressman Mike Flood was finishing a meeting with constituents, and here is some of what we just saw. Danny Freeman is out front at that town hall in Columbus, Nebraska tonight.
So sorry for clipping, but someone was yelling, "What do you stand up for?"
You've seen some of these town halls, so now you're able to say what one looks like versus another. So much frustration in the auditorium where you are. What did people have to say to Congressman Flood?
In this particular town hall, Aaron, people had a lot to say to Congressman Flood. But just for some perspective, we're in Nebraska's 1st congressional district. This is a district that President Trump won by 55% of the vote. Congressman Flood actually did better than Trump back in 2024 with 60% of the vote. And yet, as you noted, as you just played, there was still quite a lot of frustration. And I'll say, Aaron, the biggest amount of boos and jeering that we heard really came with the subject of Elon Musk, with the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. A lot of people fearful that there would be cuts to the VA, also cutting of Medicare and Medicaid. Take a listen to how Congressman Flood responded to at least some of this, because he really stood by Elon Musk and DOGE.
There's a lot of people in this room that don't support what DOGE is doing. But for the first time, we are making some progress. How can you be against a balanced budget? All right. All right.
Breaking news, anger.
The Grinch grin that I always do every time I look at that clip, because so there's something very funny there. That congressperson, what's his name? Whoever the fuck, right? Who was speaking there? Mike Flood. Yeah, in Nebraska. He was gonna be like, "Oh, it's okay. I'm tenured. I'm a pro at this. I'm gonna hit him with the old, what's wrong with a balanced budget? I mean, we all gotta balance our checkbooks. We've all gotta make sure that our house is in order, all right?" Elon's just cutting wasteful spending. And these Nebraskans, now mind you, there's a lot of politically active leftists in Nebraska. They just have not shown their asses out until now. So again, I'm watching y'all. Welcome to the jungle. Y'all should have been here a little bit earlier, but anyways, we're happy to have you here. That being said, they're coming out and they're like, their response to the gaslighting of what do you have against a balanced budget is tax the rich. Because they're not stupid. They never were. Maybe gullible, but they were never stupid. They knew that, okay, let's take your household analogy. We have costs and we have income. Now, why are we paying bills? Why are we paying the mortgage? Why are we paying the electricity? Why are we going into debt off of our kids, the people who have the lowest income in this household, or, in a government sense, the poorest? Why are they the ones paying the most percentage of their income in taxes? And why are the wealthy people paying the smallest percentage of their income in taxes? And, you might start to lose people on the nuances of, well, Tim Cook or Steve Jobs only takes $1 per year in salary from Apple. He's poor. People know all the loopholes and the capital gains, loopholes. And we know all that stuff, all right? But the fact that it doesn't even have to be distilled to that, the fact that we don't have to do this, and this is why I kind of stopped, right? I was like, debunking a Ben Shapiro video when his audience is addicted to bullshit is not going to work. You just got to wait till the point where the bullshit runs out. And I don't mean to sound like James Carville in that, but unless everyone on the left were united in that same mode of we're going to supercharge attack this and go Death Star one by one, which we all would have had to do in before 2017 to get Bernie elected, but even till now, there's no unity like that on the left, right? So you had to let things get a little bit bad to this point, but now you even see conservatives who sound like Bernie bros, frankly. And it makes you wonder a lot of things. What the left could have done to get Bernie elected, what the Democrats could have done to step out of the way of getting Bernie elected in 2016. This would be a fundamentally different country if he had won in 2016. Fundamentally.
Oh, fundamentally, that's tough, but we're not going to get into that. Now, here is my thing, though. They're screaming that at Mr. Flood there. But would they be doing that to Donald Trump? I don't think so. So I think we still got a ways to go.
But here's the deal. These are people who are late to the game. Yes. And Trump is an icon to them. But they also deify the schoolhouse rock version of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. And Donald Trump, the part where he's starting to overrun his skis here is that the Republicans are Constitution humpers through and through. And they're really starting to tap on the lines, the First, the Second Amendment. First Amendment, freedom of speech are very obvious. The Second Amendment, of course, Trump's not talking about taking away your guns, but you're hearing these things about government overreach and tyranny and state overreach and deporting citizens and things like that. And there's something Trump and the GOP knew how to tap into general white rage and anger. But we can't forget that the GOP are technocrats, just like the Democrats are. And so they don't actually really, have a beer with Joe Sixpack as much as they're good at cosplaying it, right? So they don't actually understand that id. They don't understand that person. And that person is, I see we have a live local late breaking person in chat, which would be great. But that id is one of, we care about our rights. We care about them in theory. These are people who, for no reason whatsoever, thought Obama was going to come and take their guns. Right? So, these are people who are looking for signals that do and don't exist. of their rights being taken away. And the same people who are like, I don't want these jackbooted thugs coming over to my house and my family telling me what to do or whatnot. There's an increasingly overlapping Venn diagram of those people who are Trump voters and the people who are also Trump voters who are being, well, you know, the Venn diagram between people who are Trump voters who are very much like, you know, don't tread on me types. And then the other side of the circle overlapping of people who are being directly affected by Trump's policies. And you're starting to see some people are like, oh, when I supported Donald Trump, I'm sorry to do like a slight Latino accent here, and I'll stop. But like when I was supporting Donald Trump, I thought he was going to get rid of the criminals. I didn't think he was going to get rid of my husband, my wife, my mother, my teacher, my white graduate studies tutor. Like, you know, they weren't thinking about this. And now that they're seeing the actual ramifications of their actions, we're closer to the same page with them than we have been in a while, I think. That's not a cause for total optimism, but that is to say that, like, you know, that's not our fight. Let's just continue to amplify the contradictions, because it's those same contradictions that radicalized me, Bam, everyone watching this. Those contradictions got to such a point where we broke out of whatever ideological prisons we came out of before. So
don't speak for me.
No, yeah. When Bam was a Larry Elder loving conservative.
I was Muslim before.
So a Larry Elder loving conservative. Okay. No, yeah. I think everyone's on a political journey, or, you know, most people are, and they hopefully, if they're thinking, grow along that journey. And that doesn't mean like do a 180, but that means like build nuance to what you're doing. We have one last chatter here. We can go for like, you know, at least 10 more minutes. Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. I'm going to bring you on the stage. This is your name. I'm not sure this is who you are. If so, up yours, woke moralist. But
he's already crying.
You can stay audio only. But I'm going to put you on the, you know, area here. But yeah, how you doing?
How are you doing, woke moralists?
What the hell? Is that a Jordan Peterson impression?
Yes, it is, you woke moralist. This is the real Dr. Jordan B. Peterson.
Why are you crying, doctor?
It's because I'm sick.
Like you have a cold?
I have a sore throat. I did not take my injections for the 6 pills that I was supposed to take today.
Is that too much meat, good doctor? Because, you know, that all meat diet that you and your family seem to like. I'm not sure how that works for the immune system.
I don't know, but I must be turning off to too much porn. You bet know that I am a very old man. Turning off the woke porn.
It sounds like RFK.
No, when you're watching the woke porn, it's the lesbians, right? Because that's where the liberals start to convince me. It's like, you know, maybe it's the, you know, maybe love is love. I don't know. I mean, I'm erect. What's the matter?
What's the matter? I don't know. Because it's so sickening. You don't even know what it is. It's on the vaccines or something.
That's like RFK and Trump together.
Now we're going into the old lady from SpongeBob in the wheelchair who's like,
all right, the mask is off. It is I, Looney Tunes 9000.
Oh my gosh. In the flesh, in the voice.
Yes.
You've been in a lot of chats before. It's great to hear from you. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Loaded question, but that's fine.
Well, yeah, I just finished my leftist mafia, so came over to chat.
God
Here's
bless.
it.
And like no actual rivalry between us and leftist mafia. Hopefully one day, maybe one of us will be less stubborn and we'll coordinate our shows to where they lead into each other very nicely. But until then,
What time do they go on?
They go on at 5.
Oh, okay.
And then they end at like 8:30, usually, more or less. And then we're going on from like 8:30 to 10.
That's 10:30 my time.
Well, I'm talking Pacific time, God's hours. So.
Oh, whatever.
So yeah, I'm not sure if you saw any of the prompts, but your general thoughts about the Democratic Party, or if you're sick of talking and hearing about that all over leftist media for the past couple of times,
well,
like just like things you're thinking about doing to organize, outside of this political space, offline, those sorts of things. I'm really curious about hearing about that.
Well, first of all, you need to go up and protest and tell these motherfuckers, do something. Do something and stop Trump. Because he's destroying what? The Department of Education. He's about to shut that down. He's destroying NOAA. He's destroying what else?
National Oceanic and I
Yeah,
forget what
NOAA.
it stands for, but they track the weather. I'm just like, clarifying.
Yeah,
this thing.
NOAA. That's what it is.
NOAA.
Yeah, NOAA.
National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
Yeah. And they're completely destroying. They're trying to destroy the military. Trying to kick the trans people out. That didn't work. But they're avoiding the courts. But you got to write to your Congress people. Wake the fuck up. What are you doing? Stop going against us. Stop joining the Republicans.
Are you in a do you know if your congressperson is like, or the district you're in as far as Congress goes and Senate goes, if you want to admit, like, are those red, are those blue? Like, how are you approaching that on your level?
It's going to be a simple red because I'm in a red state. Because one of them is a Senator Foghorn Leghorn or John Kennedy. His nickname is Senator Foghorn Leghorn.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Because he says, "Oh, George Soros is buying WWL."
So do you think about, like, I know the state, I'm not going to dox you for folks who don't know how to Google, but it's definitely a rough one. But like, do you think about, there's a lot of areas even within red states who maybe they don't identify as left, they don't have the political language for these different things. They're too busy, on a 9 to 5 going to work, right? But do you find that there are, communities in these things? Like, I'll just put you on blast. Like, you're talking about, the Cajun South. You're talking about Louisiana here, and in a lot of parts of Louisiana, especially New Orleans, like, you have year-round communities of people who get together for different things, and the main reason they get together might be for jazz festival or Mardi Gras or one particular performance or thing that happens every type of year, right? But what happens in a lot of communities in Louisiana that doesn't happen in a lot of cities I found in the United States is that you have a sort of like built-in societal structure of community that I think is this kind of thing that is subversive for radical politics. So I'm just wondering, not every place in the country is like that. But yeah, I'm just kind of wondering, like, what's it like on the ground from your perspective?
Okay, well, you can tell most of the state is basically MAGA, and you can see MAGA signs everywhere here and there, but there's a few Democratic supporters because I'm in a Democratic city. Because I got a mayor that's been banned from traveling because she's been spending so much money and she's not been using the money to support the public schools, and that's going on case. I don't know if y'all heard of that, so you might want to look that up. And then we
Wait,
got
that's a public official in the area who has like an inability to travel because of an ongoing investigation, is what you're saying?
yeah, and that's my New Orleans mayor, Latoya Cantrell. I don't know if you ever heard of her.
I have, and I'm currently doing this thing because it's my area of expertise on corrupt Democrats in the state of California. But
Mhm.
this is applicable to New York. It's applicable to New Orleans, as you're describing. I'm not sure if the mayor of Chicago is corrupt, but he's definitely letting a lot of people, especially on the left, down right now. Unfortunately, I'll talk to Ray about that sometime soon. But no, continue, please. Talk about that.
Oh yeah. What she has done, she recently was found out that she was having an affair with a police officer in her own private house on the French Quarter. She actually had this guy got in trouble for it. So she sent
Let
him
the
to
good
jail.
times roll.
Let the good times roll, they say. Sadly, that corruption is not rare. I hear you, Lefty. I hear you.
No, as you were saying, I might be running some comments underneath because I'm very much behind. But no, yeah, like organizing in those sort of spaces where obviously the Republicans hate you, naturally the Democrats are going to fail you. Are you finding any sort of like middle ground within that where you're like, people in your community are like, hey, I hate how both these parties are working?
No, I really don't. It's just all the same. And you can find baby boomers some of these baby boomers in town sitting their asses down watching Fox News, watching Sean Hannity lie to their ass for 1 hour, and maybe put Trump or Elon, aka Elmo Musk, on the television and lie about those icebox vehicles. You know what I'm talking about, right? The icebox vehicles.
The
Telsa.
Cybertruck?
Yeah, the Cybertruck. I call them the icebox vehicles.
Oh no, I haven't seen them yet because I can get you. They look like refrigerators, frankly. I definitely see
Frankly, they
them.
do.
I have a question. You're down there in the South, and I'm assuming you're talking to people. I'm assuming you're talking to people that like are MAGA or around them. Do they themselves like Elon and or feel like they can relate to Elon himself personally?
Lucky for me, I have not seen any Nazis where I've lived. Lucky. I don't see anybody doing Nazi salutes. I don't see any swastikas. I don't see none of that here. None.
See more of that in California.
In the state of California?
Dan's got one. If you look in the corner right there, behind. No.
Oh Jesus.
No. I mean, like I think, and I've learned this very acutely. I think the Sam Cedar Jubilee debate made this very acute for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Or like made this very clear for a lot of people, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But that we, folks on the left, folks watching the show, people with a conscience, just general people, consume politics on the basis of material circumstances. Like, how does this policy affect this person? How does this law affect this people? What people are being left out by, society as the way it functions and how it's meant to work? Like, oh, we say that we fix this problem, but who is that fix leaving out, right? Like, there's that politics. And then there's the politics that is developed definitely in the post-Obama era. But it's a politics of vengeance. It's a politics of which of my enemies can I make mad? It's a politics of, oh, you added feminists into my video game, therefore I'm coming for your jobs and I'm gonna like, you know, send death threats to you, right? Like
Oh boy.
it's why I found certain political conversations even more difficult to deal with in real life, because before I can even talk about politics to someone in real life, which, to be clear, I really avoid for better or worse. But if I'm gonna do that, I have to first figure out what's their valence for truth. Like how receptive are they to just like, oh, well, you think that. Well, did you know that I studied that a lot more and it's actually this, that, and the other way? And if I can't tell, that person goes, oh, I thought I knew something about that, but the source I knew is not as authoritative or not as clear or not as precise or not as direct or whatever is what you're describing. Henceforth, therefore, too, and so thither, therefore, whatever, you know, like I'm going to start listening to that, right? We don't live in a politics where, and it goes back to that Sam Cedar debate. Sam Cedar was saying obvious facts like government entities don't pay taxes because they're funded by taxes. And if someone goes, oh, wow, I haven't thought about it that way, I guess that makes sense, then even if they identify as a Republican, you can talk to them. If their response to government entities don't pay taxes because they are part of the government, therefore they take in taxes, is no, that's not true. Actually, I read on Ben Shapiro's website that government entities get paid in tax subsidies for hiring unqualified blacks, and that's my stance, and you can't move me from that fact, then it's like, okay, then we're in a different scenario where I can't just talk to you as though facts work. I have to do a different strategy. And the strategy that I've been kind of talking about is that, like, you have to show weak people what strength looks like, and within strength, show a progressive view for the world. And I admit, and I get from hearing from you right now that that's going to be harder to do in a place that is so red saturated. And this is something that, like, it's a frustration that Christina Cosmopolitics, who's in South Carolina, us and I have had a discussion about, like, ongoing, about how much can you do in a place that is you're digging out of so much right-wing bigotry.
Right. I mean, look, the whole South is bigotry. From Georgia to South Carolina and maybe portions of Mississippi. Actually, whole of
Maybe.
Mississippi.
Yeah, I was gonna say much less of Georgia and South Carolina are racist than like Mississippi, which is like 95% racist.
Yeah. Oh, home to Marjorie Karen Green. Oh, Marjorie Karen Green. Oh my God, I have a racist community that supports me still. Why am I not out of office yet?
I mean, you have you know, there's
Georgia.
Yeah, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene's out in Georgia, but you have if we're talking about Mississippi, you have Cooperation Jackson, I believe, out of Jackson, Mississippi. And they do a lot of like left-leaning organizing work out of there. They've been on Democracy Now! A couple times. But yeah, like Cooperation Jackson is a small organization. You also have Jackson, Mississippi, which is treated by the state government as a police state.
A police
basically because I remember us covering this, you know, I'm going to be super quoting this out of context here, but, you know, on PowerPoint, that like, oh no, the state of Mississippi is going to take over Jackson because the blacks are out of control.
No.
I mean, like, that's, of course I'm being like kind of facetious, but like just barely. Like, I think they put Jackson, Mississippi under martial law because of like, one of the reasons they cited was, well, you know, we have a high population of Negroids here. So like, you know, we got to keep them in check.
Oh.
Yeah. So definitely look into that and like read into more of that. Cause I think there's like a more, you know, they pretended to give some more nuance with their reason, but the reality is that, like, Jackson, Mississippi is one of the blackest areas of the state, in a state that is basically one big former plantation anyways. And there are people there who are, in a Washington, D.C. kind of way. They're trying to fight for basic rights that you would get living in any sort of community in America. But they're like, oh, sorry, we found this loophole here where, like, you don't get rights, kind of. And actually, an entrenched group of white landowners get that right. So, like, sorry to tangent from your point in a very predictable way, as Dan would do.
Yes.
But, like, there's so much dark red in the South that we can't fool ourselves as leftists and be like, oh, we're going to be able to get through so much of this. But I think as we look to the people on the left of center who are currently pushing the party forward, your Tim Walz's, your AOC's, your Bernie Sanders, the people who are like, I'm going to go in these districts and message a positive forward agenda. I think one way we can, critique them or like push them along towards success. Because again, I'm not towards about like, negative critique, but I think like, instead of just being like, okay, good, they're doing a good job and Chuck Schumer is so shitty, like, let's, in a BAM way, let's broaden this and go,
we will not win.
Yeah, like Chuck Schumer is shitty, but Republicans are worse. Also, you have a couple of Democrats who are doing a good job, but here's where they can be doing better. And this is not a time where we just, accept what we can get, whether it's, Chuck Schumer or whether it's AOC. If AOC is finally on the side of actually fuck the Democratic Party, trying to social climb within this party is not going to get me anything, as has already been proven, because geriatric Connolly is in her spot of like actually activating for the Democrats right now. But no, I think you're illuminating something really important for me, Looney Tunes, and thank you for calling in. Is that like we need to be focusing on how are Democrats going to tune their message so that it cuts through deep red areas like a bullet through wet toilet paper. Because Bernie Sanders was almost able to do that. Bernie Sanders was able to go on Fox News and and he was able to not change his Medicare for All message and get the Fox News, like picked audience to clap against the Fox News hosts. Like Bernie Sanders was able to work the room that hard in 2016 and maybe even a couple times in 2020. But I don't even think Bernie's got that smoke right now. And I definitely know AOC doesn't have that smoke right now. Tim Walz might, because you have to be a certain kind of like, good old boy white man to be able to get that message out there. But Tim Walz, I think, can make a certain number of mistakes that an AOC or a Bernie Sanders can't. That if they learn from Tim Walz or, a Gavin Newsom or a JB Pritzker and what does or doesn't work for Democrats in the South, I think we can get a really smart message that cuts through Democratic propaganda, Republican propaganda, and can hopefully get to the point where, okay, if people in the South ultimately, they don't like these terms like Marxism and socialism, but they do like the idea of lower healthcare costs or job guarantees or housing guarantees, like things that will actually change their lives in the places where they're living. And if Democrats can message to that, I think that's the opportunity that I just don't see anyone seeing. And another thing, welcome to being on Power Report.
Thank you. This is my first.
Hopefully, I have many. But yeah, hopefully, welcome to the experience of me talking too much, trying to get out a good point. But,
no, you're good.
No, thank you, because I think I hope, and please correct me if you don't see this, but I think I'm going to use this sort of like approach of what is the leftist Southern strategy, like, and the Southern strategy from Pat Robertson was like absolutely fucking evil, of course.
It was so horrible. You cannot even imagine.
Yeah, Pat Robertson, of course, like coming back from Lee Atwater, like, of course, y'all know that, right? But it was effective. What is the Southern strategy for the left in a way that is, effective, and in a way that doesn't compromise, leftist opinions. And another thing, bam.
I think that we kind of already saw it, like not necessarily like a leftist, but I think for the left in the South, you have to fight through the apathy of Black voters. You have to get the Black voters to vote, and I think we saw Stacey Abrams do that in Georgia, because a lot of Black voters stay home in the South, and I think if you can activate those people who are already going to vote for the left in a broader sense, but yeah, if you can activate them to actually get out and vote and help them to do that, or register them, or whatever Stacey Abrams was doing in Georgia. Obviously not by herself; she had a big team with her. But I think that showed the way. Like I remember back then saying that I remember saying specifically that we need a Stacey Abrams in Mississippi, and in other states in the South, in Alabama and stuff like that, because that'll do it.
It doesn't do it. It just doesn't work. I mean, plus y'all understand that the South is very religious, and religion will be shoved down your damn throat so much. You'll see these crosses everywhere. And it's just so disturbing. I mean, do you want the religion shoved down your throats where y'all are in California? You suffer the same thing? No. All right.
I mean, I'll definitely say, like, as someone who grew up in a very religiously abusive experience, that happens all over the country, all over the world. But there are definitely certain areas of prominence where it happens a lot more. And there are certain areas of prominence where a person like me, who is growing up in that environment, has fewer things around them to get them out of that and to show them sanity, to be like, oh, there are people who don't think like that of many different sectors of life that are in the South. So that's all to say that I acknowledge what you're saying. Yeah, like there's and I think that's core of this whole conversation, right? There are factors to organizing in the South that I think are very easy for the predominant podcast leftist space to set on a pedestal and say, well, we live on the coast and you can just walk outside or drive a couple miles and go to a meeting. Like, you're building a lot more from the ground up in your places. And so I again, like, thank you for calling in and having the courage to do so, because I think this is going to like bend my coverage to making sure that any sort of strategy, as I'm interviewing people, as I'm talking with people, like any sort of strategy also keeps in mind where we have a lot of work to build on. And I think, you're living it right now. So also I encourage you to use your voice in the, not just PowerPort, but, you're in Leftist Mafia. I know you're in, Letter Hack Stream, a lot of other different places. Like, make sure that perspective that you speak through is put forward so that other creators make sure not to not accidentally miss it in their coverage as well.
Right. All right. So, okay, everybody, before I go, remember, first week of June, I'll be doing a live show. If one of you mods can put the live link to my channel, subscribe, and I'll be live in June.
What's your channel? Do you have like a handle, like youtube.com/
youtube.com/LooneyTunes9000.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'll be live in the first week of June.
Is it going to be like a down the first week of June, or are you doing like a little streamathon type deal?
I'm just doing a regular stream, that's all.
Okay, so sometime during the first week of June, you will see Looney Tunes and all of your great opinions and your great perspective live at youtube.com/LooneyTunes9000, possibly on other platforms, but that's a good bet to keep it locked with all the things that they're doing. But no, thank you very much for coming on, and thank you for doing it on such short notice as well. Next time I do this, I will do my best to make sure more people know. But I appreciate you for being a good mod, for corralling people to come in between different streams on the left. Like, you're a real one, Looney. So appreciate you.
Thank you.
See ya.
All right, Dan. Thank you.
All right.
All right, we're done. We're done. Let's get out of here. Don't do it.
No. It's all good. No, Bam, you got a real nice shirt on. Where'd you get the shirt? No, I'm kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's a nice shirt, but I can ask you that off the stream. It's all good.
I've worn it on here many times, so
I was probably not drunk enough the other times to compliment you. No. Anyways, Ray has already told me about the Severance episode that has just released, because I thought it would not be out until right now, but I'm gonna have to watch that joint. I know it gets
so we are hopping off then.
Oh yeah, we are hopping off. The stars have aligned, and my interest to end the show early have meet Bam's interest to always end the show early. So anyways, thank you very much for that. I will say on YouTube, I have us set to go to the Letter Hack stream tomorrow, where her and Ravana will be discussing a little bit of Severance. That should be fun. Apparently there'll be a debate. I think maybe Letter Hack's a little bit of a Severance hater. We'll see about that. That's funny. Anyways, check that out. On Twitch, folks, please go over to Twitch if you're not already. Make sure you're subscribed. I'm gonna do a better job about redirecting people. I have been pretty good the past couple of weeks, maybe months, but tonight's not gonna be one of those nights. Anyways, thank you very much for listening and watching. The power is always within you. Bam! Before we leave, what's a sound clip that I should play before we head out?
The news one.
The news one. So I wanted to do like
I love Tesla.
I was hoping you said that, but to play us
We do
out,
a news show, and that is what happened in the news.
the power is always within you. Thank you, Bam. Thank you, audience. Thank you, callers, Lefty and Looney Tunes. Cheers. Thank you, Sacha.
And Sandy.
Sorry. I always say Lefty as left of the box, but also who wasn't joining in, but Lefty as in left of the box. Sandy. Yes. Thank you. Check them both out. Cheers. Bye.
Pause it for a second.
Thank you, President Trump. Now I'm going to buy some mother F bleep guns.